Welcome back to the HVAC Know-It-All podcast. Today, I'm joined by Benjamin Dreyer, who's here to share a powerful story about mental health in the trades. Benjamin's journey into HVAC started in 2017, but it's the personal challenges he faced that have driven him to advocate for a better, more supportive work culture. In this first part of our conversation, we'll dive into the mental health struggles within our industry and discuss how we can start making real changes for the better. Be sure to tune in for part 2 coming in the next few days. This is the HVAC Know-It-All podcast. I'm your host, Gary McCreadie.
Top contractors across the US only. This one's going to be pretty cool to expand your marketing reach. Property.com is an exclusive network for certified pros. You can get your own custom Property.com webpage for free. You can also get AI-powered reputation management and get some great lead generation and prospecting tools. The Know Before You Go tool is pretty cool. It gives critical homeowner data like how much they've paid on past jobs. Join Property.com's exclusive network now to expand your reach with homeowners across the U.S. Use McCreadie.property.com, so that's MCCREADIE, property.com, to fill out the form to get approved. How's it going, Ben?
Fantastic, man. How you doing?
I'm good. You reached out to me with a compelling story, and we just had a brief discussion about it now, and I'd like you to retell it because it's going to resonate with a lot of people. So we have, I operate on a lot of social media channels, and it seems to me that mental health is a massive thing. I can just tell by the way the comments come into, for my Facebook page, for instance, just the way the comments are written and the tone of them. People seem angry and upset about things they have no control over. Who cares if I post a product that you don't like? Do you really have to start competing with me about you're a better technician than me and come on my job site, I'll walk circles around? What is this all about? And I think it has to do a lot with mental health. So before we get into the conversation and before you talk about what you do and your mission, let's talk about your story and how you got to this point and why you contacted me in the first place.
Sure. Yeah. So like you said, the mental health problem in this industry, it's really taken a toll. And I kind of got involved in the industry in 2017, and my dad is the one that got me the job. Now, he'd been in the industry for 25 years, experienced sales guy, knew everything there was to know about the industry.
And when
I
you
had
say
no
the
prior
industry, are you talking about, just to confirm, are
Sure.
you talking about HVAC, the HVAC industry?
Yep, mechanical
Okay,
contracting.
perfect.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so he got me the job and he told me I'd be good at sales. I had no prior experience, but I figured I'd give it a shot. And he told me he would coach me, he would teach me what I needed to know. And he lied because it was actually really difficult to learn about something I never worked on. So that was kind of tricky, But he did a good job. He taught me what I needed to know. But what I could have never been prepared for was just the demand of the industry and the toll it takes on you. And specifically that first summer in 2017, when the temperatures got to be 95 and 100 degrees, people would yell and scream. And as a young and insecure guy, I was not prepared for it. I couldn't communicate.
Who was yelling and screaming?
Oh, customers internally in the office. Because when there's not good processes in place, people seem to get frantic and it really throws everything out of balance. And that's naturally what happens. People get scared that they, like you said, it's a competition of egos get in the way and insecurities start coming out. And as a young guy, I didn't understand that, but I kind of willpowered my way through it. And I got better at handling that by doing the same thing though. I mean, that's how I survived. I had to kind of snap back. I had to get tough, and that can only work for so long. And essentially that culture, that environment kind of existed throughout my career all the way up until 2021. And my dad and I worked at the same company, but on April 13th, I walked up and said good morning to him like I would any other day. But when I walked up to him at his desk, he was actually typing on his computer. And when he saw me, he slammed his laptop shut. Very strange. Didn't think much of it at the time because we were in the office and I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. That very next day, April 14th, he died by suicide, jumping off a 33-story building to his death. And that letter that he was typing was his suicide letter. And so that obviously changed a lot, that kind of sent me into a spiral and kind of made me focus on this industry and the effect that it really takes on people. Because here's this tough guy, strong willpower, hard worker. He couldn't make it. And so that kind of gave me a gut check. And this happened just 2 months before my wedding day. So what happened for me is I got straight into therapy, and through therapy, I was taught a skill that I now built my business on, which is, it's simple. Just being able to apply accurate language to your thoughts and feelings. That leads you to understand yourself. And when you can do that, you can understand others. And that right there, to your point, that's what people are missing in our industry. We were never taught how to communicate. And when you're not taught that, you can't solve problems. And when you can't solve problems, anxiety builds, tension builds, and that pressure takes a toll on people. And so that's essentially how we got to where we are today. And I totally agree with you. That skill is missing, and we see it come out in so many ways. Those insecurities, that's what we're looking at. And we don't have the skills to talk each other through those conversations.
How did we get to that point? What, in your belief, let me just go down a couple paths here. Is it the education system? That is, our education system here in North America is dictated by the government. The government hands down the educational curriculum to the schools, and that's what we're taught. Did it start with that? Maybe. I don't know. Did it start with the mentality is be a man, like just put your head down, bear it, do it, and don't complain, get the job done and move on, and don't say shit to me. Like, you're there to do a job, you're a man, get it done. And I see this, if I pick up it's funny, like it was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, I'm using this compressor tote tool, and compressors are heavy. Even a 5-ton compressor, like carrying it across the roof of a commercial building, by the time you get there, I mean, you're huffing and puffing, you're sweating, your back hurts, your arms hurt. And if you have a tool to carry it across the roof where it doesn't provide or doesn't give the pain, it doesn't exhaust you, it doesn't start hurting your back, you're not sweating balls, you know what I mean? And I put a post out on social media, and the comments coming in were like, oh, you and your buddy are holding hands carrying that thing across the roof, just put it on your back, do that.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality that I think gets in the way of us communicating properly, because we are taught that communicating, I guess, our feelings in a way is not manly. Would you agree with these statements? Like, you can go through that whole education, being a man, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'd say focus on being the man. I think that in this industry, I mean, that's what these guys have been taught for the last 20, 30 years. Shut up, do your job, put your head down. And that's what was expected of them. And then you form this dynamic of, okay, they had to go through that. So now when we get a younger generation, well, you have to go through it too, because I had to do that. So now you have to do it. And so it's really hard to stop the cycle. And if that's what they've been taught, now when we introduce things to help people, support systems like, okay, we're going to put a mental health professional on a job site. It's a 180 to tell these guys, hey, shut up, just do your job. And now we're telling them, hey, go walk across the job site to that therapist and tell them how you feel. That's too far of a jump. We're not going to make that. And so we really need to focus in on, and like you said, we can kind of get lost and down the path of, talk about our feelings. What does that have to do with business or anything? Well, really, the faster you understand your feelings and you understand yourself, you can understand somebody else. And the faster you can do that, the faster you solve problems. So really, we can kind of get out of the this is soft, this is talking about feelings thing. And it's more about this makes me effective in business. But also by doing that, it does help you as an individual. And I think that you have to be strong enough in these conversations with these guys, because you know how it is. You need to be able to stand there in front of them, talk through a conversation. When they say that stuff to you, you need 2 guys to walk with you. You're going to hold hands across the roof. It's like, hey, I don't appreciate how you're talking to me. Here's why we're doing it. We actually show up to be more effective and make money for our company. And we're going to do this job faster by doing this. So maybe I could teach you a thing or two about it. You got to be able to talk these guys through a conversation with that balance of being stern, but you still care about them, right? We're not here to tear people down, but you can't talk to me like that. And here's where we're going.
Yeah. And the thing that makes me laugh is that if you still see guys in the trade in their 60s, and it happens, that you still see guys climbing ladders and walking across roofs in their 60s for whatever reason. Maybe they enjoy it. Maybe financially they have to because they don't have enough retirement money saved or whatever the case may be. And that's fine. But you see some of them walking and they got a limp, they got a sore back. And like, guys, how did you get to that point? Well, because you had to be a man and slug compressors across the roof, rope them up the side of a building instead of utilizing a boom truck. I remember I used a boom truck to bring up a 5 or 10-ton compressor up onto a roof, and I filmed it, and I put the post out on social media. This is going back years and years and years ago, and I was made fun of. Oh, you can't rope that up the side of the building? Of course I could, but why do I want to? Why do I want to stand on the edge of a 30-foot building pulling up a 250-pound compressor up the side of a building? I could get lightheaded, I could get dizzy, I could fall, I could drop the compressor and damage it. Why do I want to put myself in that position? Just because I'm trying to prove to everybody else online that I'm a man? I think when you know and you're comfortable in your own skin, you know your limitations, and you say, you know what, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And if my son, who's 16, turns 16 tomorrow, I asked him, I said, dude, what do you want to do when you get out of high school? Like, have you thought about it? I said, because you're turning 16, you're going to get a driver's license and all this stuff, and have you thought about it? And he loves coding and all that kind of stuff. He's kind of nerdy in that sense, but he's also athletic, so he wants to drive and become something in sports as well. But I said, the coding thing, AI is going to take over that. I said, anything along those lines, unless you're super, super good and you're telling the AI what to do or designing AI type products, AI is going to take over those jobs. So you need to figure out what you want to. He's like, you know what? I think I want to try HVAC because you'll be able to teach me and so on and so forth. And my brother's in the industry as well, so he'll have a sort of a base to lean on. And I'm thinking, like, of all the times that I put myself in jeopardy because I didn't want to go back to my boss and say, sorry, boss, I wasn't a man today and I didn't want to. And I think about all these times and I think, do I want my kid in that position? No, I do not. I want him to work more safely and more smarter than I did and the way I was taught. So yes, a change at some point needs to be made, but how do we implement that change, Ben? How do we start that?
Yeah, fantastic question. But before we get to that, let's touch on, because this is a great example for people to hear. That technician, like you said, 60 years old, they're in the field, that they're still getting on roofs in the summertime. Their bodies are broken down. And people ask them, hey, why are you still doing it? Or in this situation, you've got the money. Hey, why are you still doing it? And as leaders in the company, the management team, they should be able to have a conversation with that person and be aware of the fact that this person only feels valuable when they're using their skills like the way they are right now. Their self-worth is tied to it. That's the only time they feel like they're making a difference. It's our job in the office to make sure they understand and paint a picture of, hey, you're still valuable using your skills. Here's how it looks differently. And being able to draw the line of, because I care about you, you're not going back on the roofs. We can't allow it to happen. And you can say it in a loving way, a caring way, but that's not going to happen. Here's how we're going to make you useful to the company still. And we in the office, we're responsible for that. And those conversations don't happen. Instead, we allow people to kind of blur the lines of accountability and kind of push the boundaries because those guys are valuable. We don't want to lose them. And they get so much rope, they kind of just start to self-destruct. And that's where we run into problems. And we need to be here for them. And to your second question, how do we make the change? It's just like what you said. If your son had someone out there like you who is taught the skill set that we teach, just really how to communicate honestly with people and be able to be the one guy on the job site to stand up to the more experienced guy. Because what people don't understand is power dynamics are real. And if you're an apprentice, you need the knowledge from the guy who's older than you. And if you ruffle the feathers, well, he could kind of pull back on that and then you pay the price. So you're kind of, I don't want to offend him, but what are we really focused on, right? We need to make a change. And if your son's on a job site, we want him to be safe. We got to empower that one guy on the job site to say, hey, I'm not doing this. I don't care what you think about it. Here's what we're doing, and stand your ground and be able to have that conversation. And like you said, that comes from a place of when you value yourself, you're able to do that kind of stuff. And so it's just empowering those kind of guys. You need them on a job site. And those are the people that we focus on. You have that personality to connect, to stand your ground. We focus on those people and train them a little bit better, and they can make the difference.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you, and it's along the lines of maybe a tough question. I don't know if it is or not, but when you went through that with your father, was it the reasoning behind all of it? Was it because of the trades and because of the culture that led him to that? Was it part of it?
So, great question. So something that a lot of people didn't know about my dad is that he suffered from bipolar disorder as well as manic depressive. And so in his personal life, that's what he was struggling with. And the point I like to make is we can't provide an environment in the work culture that creates an environment that's likely for a suicide to occur. So the demand of the industry and the fact that a lot of these companies, they were built as small family shops, right? It's a mom and pop shop, and they scale up, and they don't have the structure inside of the organization to deal with problems very well. They have a lot of high performers, and people do well. They make a lot of money, but it's chaos when you look inside those doors. That kind of environment, it stresses people out. They get anxious. It takes a toll on them. And when those paths cross of that personal struggle and that professional conflict of that chaos, that's a problem. And we can stop the professional part. We can't always stop the personal one. And so I argue that that's why it's so important. And yeah, the industry played a role in it, because our customers, it's a service industry. They need it, and they need it now, right? And we understand that. But let's not allow that to be a mask for bad processes and just bad operation. We can't do that. We can still operate quickly. We can take care of our customer efficiently with good processes.
Now, can I ask what generation your father was? Was he like baby boomer, late Gen X, or like what?
Yeah, so he was in the baby boomer generation, and he was of the mindset of just power through it. I mean, strong willpower, stereotypical guy that you think of older in the trades.
Yeah. And the reason I ask that, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to look down upon anyone. People look down on millennials and,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? The younger generations, and that came down from like the baby boomers, older Gen X. And there's always this gap between the generations. But what I do find, and Facebook especially, because Facebook seems to have a lot of older Gen X, I'm Gen X, but older Gen X and the baby boomer generations. And it seems like they are the worst for it, because just the other day, it's like, here's a video of me showing like a younger guy a tool to help him flare a piece of copper more efficiently. And older gentleman, you could tell from the picture that he was older, and you can even tell from the names of people, right? So names like Richard and John and stuff, people don't call their kids that nowadays. You know what I mean? So anyway, you can tell by the names and the pictures, and you can tell by the way they write their comments that what generation they're in. It's like, hey, you want me to, you gonna put that in your purse when you're done? I'm like, really? It's because it's a handheld device that makes a flare without you having to do this with your wrist. So we're coming back to the man thing. So because he doesn't agree with a machine to do it, because he had to do this entire life, what is he? Is he jealous? Is he upset now that we have this tool and he had to do this? And maybe he's got wrist issues or carpal tunnel, or his body's broken down. Who knows what? Or is he just in that man mentality where anything that doesn't appear to be manly, he has to put down, rather than saying, hey, can you tell me more about that? That's kind of cool. I wish I had that when I was younger. The conversations usually within that generation and late Gen X usually doesn't flow that way. It's usually a form of bashing, because to them, it appears we may have things a little bit easier because we have the internet. We have all these specialty tools that allow us not to use such intense manual labor. So generation, obviously, I probably know what you're going to say, but does generation matter when it comes to this?
100% it matters. And I think there is a sense of, we all feel it. There's a sense of unfairness where you had to do something a certain way for so long, and technology comes out or a new process comes out, and they don't have to suffer the same way that you do. But we got to refocus on why are we showing up anyway? What's the point of showing up to a job site? To do it efficiently, to do it safely, and to make money. If we focus more on that, and we get conversations to stay focused on that, a lot of that other stuff filters out. You could kind of poke back at them and say, what's the point of showing up today? Is it to make fun of me, or is it to do our job, right? Let's do our job, and let's do it efficiently. Other person really doesn't have much to say. Are you going to argue with someone who talks like that? You're not going to get anywhere, right? Because we're focused on like what we're actually trying to do. And to your point about the generations, I look at our industry now, and this talent gap that we're suffering is huge. We've got experienced guys with younger apprentices, and they don't get along, and they don't want to teach them anything. Or they say the younger guys, you've heard it a million times, they don't work hard, they don't show up on time, they don't want to learn. That's very unlikely to be true. In reality, we need to figure out what makes these guys fulfilled.
What drives
Maybe it's
them.
not
What
money,
drives
right?
them. Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's not money like it used to be, where you could pay a guy 6 figures and he'd haul 9 compressors up the side of a building in a day. These guys start out making a decent amount of money. So we got to pivot. What makes that person feel fulfilled? Is it a day out at lunch with the boss? Is it an extra day off? I mean, get to know the people, right? They want to do a good job just like any other guy or girl wants to do a good job. You got to get to know them.